What are you doing on Tuesday the 26th of September 2023? Because myself and Francesca Amber are coming to the Barbican Hall in London. Our event is called One Night Stand, and this one night event is all going to be about manifestation, crystal healing, and ridding your limiting beliefs to help you achieve your goals. We've curated an immersive experience that will leave you feeling inspired and empowered. Throughout the evening as well, we'll also have interactive exercises, we'll have empowering discussions, and the opportunity to connect with like-minded individuals on a similar journey towards personal growth and manifestation. There'll even be an opportunity for you to ask questions as well. This event is your chance to break free from the shackles of self-doubt and unleash your inner greatness. It's time to release those limiting beliefs that might be holding you back and step into your true potential. And if you want to come on your own, by all means do that. Single tickets are available and seating is totally unreserved, so you can even meet up with your spiritual friends and sit with them as well. Head to @CannyCrystals on Instagram and click the link in my bio. Tickets are limited, so secure your spot and be part of this transformative experience. Don't miss out on the chance to manifest your dreams and achieve your goals. We can't wait to see you there. Hi everyone, thank you so much for joining me on another episode of Canny Crystals, the podcast. I hope that you're all well. I know usually I would ramble on for the first half an hour of an episode about what I've been getting up to for the last week and banging on about stuff that I've manifested, but there is no time for that today, ladies and gents, not at all, because I've got an amazing episode and there's just so much here to unpack. So this week I've got an amazing guest on the show, and the only way that I can describe this is, and bear with us because this is very, very niche. Cast your mind back to 2008, okay? It's a Saturday night, you're with your girls, you're watching The X Factor. Woo. Alexandra Burke comes out, she starts singing Listen by Beyonce, and halfway through the performance, the stage opens up behind her. She breaks down into tears and says, "Ladies and gentlemen, I can't believe I'm about to introduce this woman to the stage. Please welcome my hero, Beyonce." And Simon Cowell's gobsmacked, Cheryl sat there in tears. You got that image in your head? Well, that's exactly how I feel introducing this woman to the podcast today. She's a self-proclaimed basic bitch. She's an entrepreneur. She's a multiple business owner, a writer, a mother of 4 if you include her cat Primrose. She's a manifesting mentor, an owner of a book club, and her podcast, Law of Attraction Changed My Life, has been #1 for the best part of the last year here in the UK for self-improvement. She's the reason I got into podcasting in the first place, so please give a warm welcome to the woman who has really done it all. Francesca Amber is on the show. Hi, Fran. I am so fucking starstruck right now. How are you?
I can't believe that you pulled out an X Factor 2018 reference for my introduction. I was like, where the hell is this going? Where?
Oh, I'm very niche when it comes to shit like that, but hey-ho. And I mean, you're a crier as well, aren't you? You always say that you cry in most of your fucking episodes every week.
Oh,
but...
I love crying. It's because I'm depressed.
Well, I was going to say, you're a crier, so you'll get this. But driving down here this morning, I actually had tears of joy and gratitude. I must have looked like... No, I actually did. So for those of you that don't know, I'm sat here right now in Francesca's living room. She's sat in the kitchen because we can't work out technology. They're both in the same room. But I'm sat here, and all our neighbours are probably just staring at me thinking, what's this psycho doing in the window? But anyway, I must have looked like a reed psycho driving down the A1, bawling my eyes out. So I'm just so thankful that the universe has delivered this, and I'm so happy to be here. So for those of you that are listening, like I say, I'm sat in Francesca's living room. How crazy is that? I feel like I know it inside out because I've seen it so much on your stories as well.
Especially when I had sex on that sofa a couple of days ago. So, I mean, don't get too comfy.
Is that what that white stain is over the side?
I've washed those blankets since.
Oh, okay. Anyway, I know I've just touched on a few things there, but like I said, we have so much to unpack on this episode because you've just got it all going on, haven't you? You must be so proud of yourself and your journey. Is there anything on that list there that I didn't mention?
Oh my God. Well, I was mentioned as podcast of the week in the Week in Audio in The Observer last weekend or the weekend before. Which in itself was a bit of a funny manifestation, right? Because I say recently, a couple of months ago, invested in a very expensive PR agency in London to help me to get some PR, because I'm just out there on my own trying to fucking do it, working around my 3 children, trying to build this brand, and I really needed some help. And I got in with this amazing PR agency. They're like one of the best in London, very, very expensive. And they basically fucked me around for 3.5 months, took my money and did nothing. And in the end, there was a lot of like shifting of blame, and they were like, oh, we don't think we work very well with emails, so let's set up a WhatsApp group. And it's like, they just basically didn't respond to emails. It was really, really bad. I've got a refund now. And at the end of this time, they said to me, basically, you're unPRable. Like, we can't get you on anything because, well, they didn't even really have an excuse. And I said, do you know what? You've just done me the biggest favor, because I'm so angry with you that I'm going to show you that I can get my own fucking PR better than you. And I was like, look forward to seeing me in a magazine, bitch. And then the next week, and I didn't even try and get in the Observer. The Observer contacted my sister and just said, can you provide a high-res image of Fran? Like, we're going to feature her in the Observer this weekend as like our week in audio. And I didn't even try to get it, which is the best kind of manifestation. Is I used negative emotion to turn it into a positive. And then I do have this real energy of like, I'm going to fucking show you. That's my number one manifesting energy, which I don't think is entirely healthy, but it's something that I've always used, whether it's to like show an ex or show somebody that's pissed you off, or for this example, like this stupid PR agency that told me I was unPRable. Well, sorry, next week I'm podcast of the week, bitches. So what do you say to that? So,
exactly. Yeah. That's amazing though, as well, for you to turn that negative into a positive. So like, I just want to share how this all came about as well, because for months now, I've procrastinated about getting guests on the show, and I've been overthinking it, assuming that it was going to be really difficult to do. And I mean, I know we've had some difficulties this morning. But kind of as soon as I've taught myself how to do it, I've opened the floodgates and I saw how simple it actually was. And I've had a different guest every other week, but it all started with you. So after taking part in your Manifesting Money workshop, I kept visualizing having you on here as a guest. And I kept going back to that feeling of joy and laughter and just being sat there with a cup of coffee, like laughing with you. And I could hear your voice answering me questions. And I kept that vision so close to me. And then the other week I was out for a dog walk and I just had this message wrote out for you for ages in a draft. And a little voice inside just went, just fucking send it. What's the worst that could happen? And I specifically remember after I'd sent it, asking if you would come on the show. You sent us a voice note back being like, oh my God, I've just been meditating. For some reason, kept thinking of you. I instantly had goosebumps. I think this was honestly meant to have happened.
I agree. That was I'd actually forgotten about that. But yes, it was part of our book club challenge where we had to meditate. And I find meditation really, really hard. And I never allow myself any time or space just to be still and quiet. Like last night, I literally went to sleep listening to a podcast because none of my children were here and I was a bit scared to sleep on my own. And like, that's how ridiculous. Like, I'm the sort of person, if I go to the toilet, I'll take my phone with me. Like, it's ridiculous. I don't allow any free time unless I really like consciously do it. And so doing this meditation was really, really hard. And you're supposed to be, you know, just sitting, clearing your mind, not thinking of anything. And instead I was thinking of you, and I don't know why. You just kept coming up and I was like, how weird is this? Like, I don't know why. It was the most bizarre experience. And then literally, you messaged me and I was like, how bloody odd is that? But there we go.
The universe works in mysterious ways, doesn't it? It's just like the stars aligned. So yeah. But anyway, let's get on with the interview. So I want to rewind and go right back to the 90s with you. So I want to know what life was like for you growing up. Like, were you a bit of a daydreamer in school? Like, did you always know deep down inside that you were destined for more?
Yeah, I've got main character energy big time. Like, I absolutely hated school. I never went. Like, my mum would really struggle to get me to school, and it was a real problem. Like, I would sometimes go 2 weeks without going. And my next door neighbour was the complete opposite. She was in my class and she was like, you know, traditional, normal family. I was the only one that came from a separated like home. And my mum just kind of let us do what we wanted, which I don't think was a bad thing. My sister she won't mind me saying this, my sister was a hoe. Like, my sister was out hoeing. Like, she was just like living her life. Not being an actual hoe, she wasn't being paid for it, but like, she was just being a hoe, not the best example of healthy relationships. Like, my mum and dad got divorced. And so I was just kind of like left to sort of wander along by myself. I wasn't really pushed to ever do homework. I wasn't really ever pushed to do anything. And I really always had to push myself. So like, I used to have businesses doing like dog walking and stuff like that. And I was very self-motivated in that way. But what was interesting was, for school, I could not get up on time. I couldn't have any form of like attendance. I remember when we had to do our GCSE, when you have to do like coursework, I basically hadn't done my art coursework and it was supposed to take like 3 months to do. And I lied and said I did my theme around black magic and my mum got scared and burnt it. She didn't. I just never fucking did it. Like I had no accountability and no anything. But yeah, I had to get up and go to create a dog walking business and to create these things. And so there was no one really there to guide me through that. And I found it really, really difficult. I got bad GCSEs. I went on and did a secretarial course at college because I didn't know what else to do. I did beauty therapy for a year and I dropped out of that. And yeah, I just was sort of destined to do nothing really. So I found it quite hard. But I always knew that I would be doing something fabulous. I knew that I had the potential, but I just didn't know how to bring it out at all.
Cool. So now regarding manifesting, so I know obviously you're a massive believer in the universe and energy and the law of attraction. You are the manifesting queen. And I know you have loads of stories. And I think one of my faves was the story that you told. It might have even been in your very first podcast, which is 2 years old today, by the way, ladies and gentlemen. And it was about listening to Jamelia's Thank You, I think it was, on your way to work in London every day, because it was the only song that you had on your broken iPod. And as you walked along, you were visualizing this better life for yourself. And then there was one time you were actually on TV and they used that song in the background of your VT, didn't they? So what was the first moment for you when you suddenly thought, there's no doubt about it, I did this? Was that what it was? Or were there times before that you've kind of passed off as coincidence, but now looking back, it could have been the law of attraction?
I think that there were potentially a few little times, but I think with the law of attraction, you always remember that first real manifestation. And I think now, having met me, you will understand why I walked along with that iPod with only one song on it for a year, because I am so bad with technology. Like, I don't know what happened to it. My ex-boyfriend used to have to put music on for me from CDs. I don't remember. Anyone listening to this that is under 25 will be like, what the fuck are you talking about? But that's how you used to put music on your iPod. And I had literally like 3 or 4 songs, and that was the only one I liked listening to. And so I used to listen to it on repeat. And I had this really long, boring commute, which if you are a person living with a long, boring commute or a boring job, it's a fucking blessing, because you have so much time and space in your mind to create. And I think that when you're actually living your dreams and you're living it, you don't have that anymore. Like, I don't have long, boring periods of time to create in my mind anymore, which is such a shame. But I used to be on this long commute, 4 hours a fucking day from London to Canvey Island, big up Canvey Island, long way away. And I just used to visualize. I was dating a footballer for nearly a year and he fucked me over. And I really, again, turning that negative energy into something positive, I was like, I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you, you dumped the wrong girl. And I'm going to write a book about it, because to me, being a writer was like the be all and end all. All I wanted to be in life was a writer. And I'm like, I'm going to write a book about wag culture. It's going to be autobiographical. It's going to be part like how to, but kind of, if you read it, it's not really a how to. It's kind of telling you, don't do this. It's bullshit. And I absolutely loved it. And I used to just visualize myself on this journey, getting a book deal, being on TV, being in magazines, being in newspapers, signing books. I would just have it on this loop. And as time went on, I randomly went on to Richard and Judy. Remember that, when they used to have their evening show? I went on Richard and Judy and it was live, so they couldn't stop me saying whatever I wanted to say. And I was like, I'm writing a book about this whole culture and stuff like that. And I got a publisher, I got a literary agent. They gave me an advance, which was unheard of for like an unknown author. I got £2,000 to write a book. And this was when I was earning like 17 grand a year. Like, it was out of this world, one of the most exciting experiences of my life. And then the BBC contacted me and said that we are, or maybe I contacted them, I don't remember. I was very get up and going with that sort of thing. So maybe I contacted them. And they started following me and they made a documentary called, I don't know if I want to say what it's called because I don't want people to search it. It's horrible. Oh, God. It's called Wags to Riches. And it was following me and a couple of other people about the whole kind of wag culture that was so huge then, and following the process of my book being published. And sure enough, they do this little montage of me like going to parties and doing whatever. And that was the song that was playing. And I remember watching it with my mum and just turning to her and being like, fucking hell, this works. And it was so, if you've practiced the law of attraction for any length of time, you will have these moments where it's almost like a connection to God, if I believed in God. And you literally are like, fuck, this is so specific and it's so, you can't argue with it. Like it was the same song and it was playing out on BBC, had been in my mind for months, and it was insane.
It's crazy, isn't it? Because I don't believe in coincidences when it comes to the law of attraction. I truly believe that everything happens for a reason. People always pass it off and they're like, oh, it's just one of them things, or it's just a coincidence. But I honestly don't believe in coincidences at all.
No, I agree with you. And when things are so specific, like how I met my ex-husband, putting his picture on a vision board, and then 2.5 years later, my friend randomly walking down the road and saying to someone, would you like to go on a blind date? And then we go on a blind date and it being the exact same person that's been on my vision board. Sorry, you can't tell me that is a coincidence. Nah, I ain't having it.
But it's not all been rainbows and butterflies for you, has it? Because if we jump to 2020, the UK, like the rest of the world, went into this lockdown. And at the time, you still had your beauty salon, the N7 Collective. And like most people across the world, you literally had zero income. So what was that time like for you? And how were you able to keep your vibrations so high throughout that time?
Well, basically, I didn't. I slipped into a deep, deep depression. Do you know what? I saw something on Instagram this morning that said the crisis and the miracle come one after the other, or they're very close together. And I truly believe that I understand that now. And I was definitely at the time in a race to the bottom with anybody that I knew of like, who's got it worse? Well, you're okay. You're on furlough. You're okay. You've got a partner. You're okay. You don't have children, whatever it might be. But I genuinely was struggling to find anybody that was worse off than me. I had just nearly killed myself for a year to buy a house in the country. So I was now a single mother with 2 mortgages and a salon lease, which was actually more money than both the mortgages combined. So I've got 3 properties to pay for, and it's just me, right? Then we're told your job is now illegal. You cannot do spray tans, you can't do lashes. Cool, great. Then I find out I'm pregnant. Fantastic. Then I find out you're having 2 babies, not 1. It was the breaking point for me because I just genuinely felt like in that moment, I'm going to lose my homes. There was real talk about me going to live with my sister, with my daughter, or going to live with my mum, and really going back to the beginning, having to get rid of my flat and everything, and just surviving and bringing these babies up in a fucking garage or something. That was literally where talk was going. I was at the point where I was just thinking, how will I ever afford to even like change my car, to get a car that's big enough for 3 children? And so, along with that as well, like I've always been a very proactive person, but just being told you can't go to work, you have to stay in your house, it was the lowest time of my life. It was awful. And if I could go back and change it, I 100% wouldn't, because I do believe that biggest crisis, the bigger the crisis, the bigger the rises after. And it's been the biggest rise of my lifetime, I think. The biggest glow up of my life.
Definitely. I mean, everything happens for a reason at the end of the day, isn't it? But how did you overcome all your limiting beliefs then? Because I speak about this all the time in my podcast, and it's something that's a massive thing for me. Like, I've spoke about my background so much on this show. Like, I came from nothing. My family have never, ever had any money. There's so many limiting beliefs there about earning money, and they're so bad. Like, what have been yours? Like, I know you spoke about it on your podcast before, but what have you done to help yourself overcome your limiting beliefs?
I think that sometimes people are looking for really big answers or really big results straight away. So you could look at that example, right? And I'm the same as you. I came from a single, not saying, but coming from no money. My mum didn't ever really have much money. We weren't rich, like we didn't go on loads of holidays, but that doesn't mean just because that's where you came from, that's where you have to go. But I think that sometimes people look at manifesting and stuff like that, and the things that we put in place and the things that I advise in my podcast, and they expect to get from 0 to 100 straight away. You've got to remember, when I was in that lockdown, one of the first things I did was I painted my kitchen pink. Now, my house was fucking disgusting. Like, it hadn't been decorated for 30 years and I had no money to do anything. And the original plan was I was going to renovate this within the year and knock it all out. Obviously, all those plans went. So instead of getting really down about it and being like, oh, I hate this house, like I can't afford to do what I wanted, I decided to spend, I think my budget was like £30 or £50. It wasn't very much. And I was going to completely redo my kitchen. Number one, because it gave me something to do. It gave me a little bit of a purpose. Number two, it's creative and it was great content for my Instagram. People loved it. But also number three, it was a real energetic thing of, I'm only going to have this kitchen for a year. So what better time to paint your whole fucking kitchen pink and spray your handles gold? Because people, if you're thinking of spraying your kitchen pink and doing all those cheap Hinge makeovers, that shit don't last. The paint does come off. And it's a real energetic thing in my mind of being like, I'm going to do this because I'm only going to have this for a year. In a year's time, this kitchen will be gone. It will be in a fucking skip and I will have my dream home. And that sounds really silly, but just something as simple as starting off, paint your kitchen pink, do something small. You don't have to create an award-winning podcast. You don't have to double your income. Sometimes it starts with just clearing a shelf. It starts with clearing a cupboard and, organising your life. It starts with selling all the excess things you've got in your home and creating some money and maybe starting a little business. Do you know what I mean? It's about the really small steps. And it started for me with painting my kitchen pink. That was it.
See, I always have thoughts of being like a fraud and the imposter syndrome really sits in. And I know that's all totally normal because thoughts of being a fraud and having all this self-doubt just means that you're working outside of your comfort zone. Do you ever have any thoughts of self-doubt while you're doing all of this?
Yeah, of course. And I fluctuate between the two, right? Because sometimes I want to be really honest. And, like my podcast this week, was all about like energetic spending. And I was talking about how, my energetic limits used to be like, I used to have like between £1,000 and £3,000 in my bank account. And now I'm about to hit my marker of having £200,000 in my bank account. It's in my business one, so half of it is tax, but it doesn't matter. It's still there. I've still earned it. And about how when I hit that marker, I'm going to buy myself another Cartier bracelet. And I go through phases of sometimes being like, God, to some people that might be really triggering. And there's, the fuel crisis and the cost of living crisis. And I think, oh God. And then on the other hand, I look at people like Amanda Francis and people that are super wealthy. And here I am in my little fucking semi-detached house. Yes, I'm living my dream. But do you know what I mean? And I sometimes think, God, what I'm manifesting is not very much at all. Like £200,000 in a business bank account isn't very much. Like Amanda Francis does £700,000 in a month. So I really fluctuate between the two. But I think imposter syndrome is really normal. I think everyone gets it. And do you know what? Something I've really noticed about myself recently is that every single week when I put my podcast out, I close my laptop and I think, that was shit. That was utter shite. This is the week that people are going to find out that I'm talking absolute twaddle and I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. And every week I think that. And every week when the podcast is released, I get loads of stories and messages saying, oh my God, this episode was such a game changer for me. And so I heard somebody, I can't remember who, but somebody famous saying that like, if you go out to sing, you might have done 25 arena tours, but if you don't get nervous before you go on that stage, it's over for you because you don't give a shit anymore. And every time I do a podcast, every single week, I think, oh God, this is awful. So we definitely all get that. I think no matter where we are in the level, you could be Jay-Z or you could be Gary Crystal's pet.
And I mean, speaking of your podcast, Law of Attraction changed my life. As I mentioned at the start, today as we record, this is 2 years to the day since you launched your very first episode. And I mean, what a roller coaster it's been. Like, I remember first listening and it was the very first podcast that I'd ever listened to. So I didn't know about things like pre-roll and adverts and things like that. So I was like, why the fuck's this bitch talking to me about HelloFresh constantly? And then the episode actually started and I just instantly felt this connection with you. And you're now 102 episodes deep, I think it is. And in last week's episode, you even said that people message you saying how you've not only changed their lives, but you've saved their lives. I mean, wow. How does that make you feel?
It's incredible. Well, firstly, what's incredible is that I had no idea it was my second birthday until you turned up with a big 2 balloon. And I was like, oh, what is this? So I completely forgot. So I feel like I should celebrate in some way. I don't know what I'm going to do. Maybe I'll get drunk. Who knows? But yeah, it's incredible. And do you know what? I think with anything in life, if you're listening to this and thinking, I've got something to share, I want to talk about something and start a podcast or a TikTok or an Instagram account or whatever it might be, it has to be something that you would do for free, right? Because I taught the law of attraction for 10 years on YouTube for free. I did it every single week, just the same way I did my podcast, because I genuinely feel like it helps people. I genuinely feel like there's so many people out there that either can't afford to or are not open to having therapy. I mean, it's been on my list for ages and I'm still yet to actually start. And I think that if you are in that position where you can't afford therapy, it doesn't matter anymore, because you can do the law of attraction yourself. You can teach yourself through books. You can teach yourself through free podcasts or YouTube videos. You can actually heal yourself. You don't need somebody else to heal you. You can do it yourself. And that will never, ever get old for me. It will never get old for me. I could talk about law of attraction for the rest of my life. And yeah, I get messages of people saying, I literally wanted to like end it all. I wanted to die for whatever reasons. And sometimes it's not as dramatic as that. It can just be turning people's lives around. And one of the things I do get a lot of, so I must be energetically like connected to it, is people leaving relationships, especially like mothers. And I think a lot of women feel very trapped in relationships. And it might not be that that relationship is toxic or abusive even. It might just be that they're not right for each other. And because we have the motherhood penalty and women don't get paid as much and all that kind of stuff, for so many reasons, women do feel trapped within relationships. And that's something that I feel very passionately about. And it's something that I know I'm more called to do. Like, I think as time goes on, I know that you listen to my podcast, but I think you're like only one of 10 men that actually listen to it. So it is very geared towards women. And I know that as time goes on, I do definitely want to explore more helping women to get out of either toxic environments or mentally abusive relationships, physically abusive, whatever it might be. I definitely want to work more with that. And I don't know how yet, but it ain't my job to figure it out. It will come. Yeah.
That would be incredible. Can we talk about the book club as well? Because you touched on it there quite briefly. So the book club with no name, because the main podcast was so popular, wasn't it, that you decided to set up another podcast, which became the book club. And myself and 3,000 others are members, I believe. So tell us how that came about for you and what that involves.
So from the beginning of time, I've always talked about the power of doing the magic. The magic is a 28-day manifesting process, which is incredible. And every time I've done it consistently and properly, something hugely life-changing has happened in my life. I've got pregnant with my first daughter. I finally got divorced after years of being unhappy. Like, really big life things happened, right? And so I was trying to figure out a way that I could do this with people and share it with people, because it is very difficult to stick to. You will know this. Like, it's only 28 days, but it is so hard to stick to. And I really wanted to create a community where people could do it together and hold each other accountable. Me and my best friend John and my best friend Kay, the three of us did it together once, and we managed to do the whole 28 days. And I was like, fuck. I only did this because every morning I woke up and thought, God, they're going to think I'm so fucking lame if I don't carry this on. And so I tried to recreate that friendship of three people that were all in different countries. We don't live anywhere near each other, but doing something together every day. And energetically, this is the other thing as well, right? When I did that with them, I'd never felt closer to them because we were talking every day. We were sharing an experience. And I really wanted to recreate that. And what's incredible, and I'm sure you will agree, well, you might not, but us book club bitches, I feel like we're connected in a weird way. I feel like I know you, you know me. We're all going through the same thing at the same time. And it's honestly the most magical experience of my life. And probably one of the best relationships of my life is with you lot as a whole. It's so odd, but it really is. And it's nothing short of amazing. I'm just going to say, this book club, I shout it from the rooftops because it is amazing. And it's £10 a month. Do you know what I mean? It's not a course for £1,000. It's not therapy for £40 a session. It's £10. And as long as you have the accountability and you've got the get up and go to do it, you buy the book. And what I hope is that if you enjoy the podcasts and you find them entertaining to listen to, I call myself a personal trainer for books. Reading a book by yourself is very boring. But if you are motivated by listening to me every couple of days, checking in with you and saying, right, we're on chapter 2, this is what we're doing this one, and I might throw in a little anecdote about my latest dick appointment. If that keeps you motivated and reading, good. I will fucking do that all day long. And, together we've now read, 20 books? 20 fucking books, and it's life-changing.
It's absolutely crazy, isn't it? Because, I mean, it keeps you accountable. It keeps you on track. And like you say, you are a personal trainer for books, because I can buy books and they'll sit there. I think I've still got Miracle Morning on my bedside table by Hal Elrod, and it is literally sat there, and I take it away every time I go on holiday, and it still just never gets read. But anyway, what's been your favourite book or your favourite author that you've done as part of the book club? Because I know you're absolutely buzzing with the Emma Mumford one that we're doing at the moment, aren't you? It's a bit like The Magic, isn't it? But better. Sorry, Rhonda.
I agree. I do think it's better. And what I love about these specific, like, set number of day challenges is that you put your intention at the beginning of what you want to manifest. And I manifested my manifestation on day 2, which blew my mind. But my favorite book, I think, it's funny because when you look back, hindsight is 2020, and some of the books that at the time I didn't appreciate, I find myself referring to all the time. So, for example, Jack Canfield's The Power of Focus. I didn't think it was that exciting a book at the time, but I find myself referring back to that a lot. And also Grace Beverley's Working Hard, Hardly Working. A lot of the strategies that she put in there, I find myself implementing all the time. And these are things like, you know, hiring a cleaner, outsourcing things in your business, you know, getting things like HelloFresh, check my link for 50% off. Like all of these things, they really have an impact on your life, because some people might listen to my podcast and think, well, how does getting a cleaner or getting HelloFresh help you live your best life? But it's all about, but especially as women, we have a lot on our plates. And quite often we are the last people to receive any kind of attention. We look after our children first. We look after our husbands first. We look after our friends, our parents, and we get left to last. And so my aim is to simplify people's lives as much as possible so that you don't get that, oh, I wish I had time to do the law of attraction. I wish I had time to read a book. I wish I had time to manifest, because that's all I hear from people, both in my life and in messages. I love your podcast, but I fell off the wagon because I don't have time. So my strategy is to try and simplify women's lives as much as possible by editing, outsourcing, saying fucking no. And basically you have the time and space and energy to live your best life, because people forget sometimes it's the simplest things that are the truest. And it's like, you better believe that when my children are off school and it's the summer holidays and they're all at home, I don't really do much manifesting. I don't really work on myself at all. I don't work on my self-development because I do not have the time, space, or energy. If I feel really ill, if I've been going to bed late or I've got a stomach bug, I don't do any manifesting because I don't have the time, space, or energy. So it's so simple, but you just need to give yourself time and space to dedicate to yourself.
I know you spoke there about time and energy, and it's weird, isn't it? Because not only do you do your main podcast, your book club podcast, your off-topic podcast, and your And Chill podcast with your friends, but you're also a mother of 3 beautiful girls, Bo, Reva, and Laveau. So seriously, like, I just want to know, how have you got the time? Because the only reason I ask is that at the back end of this year, we're starting the adoption process, me and my fiance. And yeah, and I'll be honest with you, I don't have time to fart at the moment. So how do you protect your energy and keep so level-headed while you're juggling this hectic lifestyle?
Do you know what? I said to someone just the other day, I was talking about you and I was saying like, someone said, oh, what, is he driving to your house? I said, yeah. I said, but he drove to Wales the other week for a podcast. And then I got really like, not upset, but I was like, fuck, that's a single man with no children can work on his brand 24. Like, I have to fit it in between tantrums and nap times. Do you know what I mean? And it really got me not upset, but I really felt like, fuck, imagine if I had started doing this before I had children. But anyway, shoulda, woulda, coulda means you're out of time. I can't do that. But do you know what? I think it's just a real balancing act of, I've talked before about glass balls and plastic balls. And do you know what? There's days where the plastic balls get dropped. You know, the laundry might accidentally sit in the washing machine for 4 hours and I've forgotten that it's done a cycle. Or, you know, things do get dropped. There are days where I haven't washed my hair for a week. And that's just the reality of life. I think it's just every day making that decision of what is the most important thing that needs to get done. And the number one thing is always myself. You might think I was going to say my children, but it has to be yourself. I have to be fed. I have to eat well. I have to have enough sleep, because if I fall down, all my children will not survive without me. Give them a couple of hours, they'd be savage. So I have to look after myself to a bare minimum first. Then the children come, obviously. And then my brand, my podcast, that is so important to me. And some days I scrape through the day where I am recording my Patreon book club podcast at 1 a.m. and the house looks like an absolute tip. But as long as you scrape through that day, having done what really, really needs to get done, then that's really all that matters. But also I think mothers are incredible, incredible multitaskers. We really do get shit done. We make the most of our time. But yeah, that's it really. And childcare, you know, like I have 2 mornings a week that my babies are in nursery. And thank goodness now they see their dad every other weekend. And that has been life-changing. Like, to have every other weekend to myself now, it has given me back a quality of life that I wish that women could have without getting divorced. I wish that women that are in partnerships could have that kind of freedom that I have, because some of my friends say like, God, you're literally like reliving your youth, because every other weekend I'm out getting drunk, dick appointments, living my best life. Do you know what I mean? Like, and that's really important to manifesting as well, because if you're not happy and you're not living in a high vibe, you're not going to manifest. You have to have that time to do things that bring you joy. But yeah, basically I just scrape through it every day, just trying my fucking best.
And just about your two beautiful twins as well, Reva and Laveau. I love those videos that you put on Instagram, you know, of them crossing the front door threshold, and they're just so cute. But you've actually got an amazing manifesting story around that, don't you? Because you were first told that you were having twin boys and you absolutely freaked out, didn't you?
Yeah, and I don't want people to judge me for this. And I feel like I've explained myself quite a lot with this. But basically, we've had a lot of family history where a lot of boys in our family have died or had like quite bad disabilities. And for one reason or another, we believed that we couldn't have boys. So my mum, as we were growing up, my mum always said, it was a bit savage to children, but she was like, if you have boys, you can't have them. You'll have to have an abortion and you can only have girls. So subconsciously, that must have really gone into my brain, because even now, my sister's got 3 healthy boys. If I had a boy, I'd be devastated. And I don't know why. And I know it's not just because girl clothes are super cute. You know, I do have a lot of feminine energy in my life. I don't have many men around. I don't get on with men very well unless they're gay. Like my dad, I don't really get on with him very well. I don't really get on with people's boyfriends. They always think that I'm a bad influence. My friend John is pretty much the only man in my life. Like, I just don't really get on very well with male energy. And so, I think that was another reason. But yeah, I went to a DNA clinic just to find out who the father was. No, I'm joking. Just to find out if they were boys or girls. And you can have this test done now at really early, like 8 weeks, to find out what you're having. And I'm the sort of person, I needed to know. I had to know. I was in a lockdown. It was my only little glimmer of hope. I'll be honest with you, and I've been honest on the book club quite a lot. I was devastated to find out I was having 2 babies. Like, I couldn't even say the word twins for quite a long time. I'd have to say 2 babies. But to find out you're going from one child and you live in a 1-bedroom flat in London and you're living the life and you have 2 days a week child free, to find out you're going to be a single mother with 3 children, I was devastated. So I went to the DNA clinic, had all the tests and everything. And then I bought a couple of manifesting items I'd been on, because this is wild, right? If you're listening to this episode of Canny Crystals in the future and you're like, what the fuck is she talking about? The time we were living in 2020, you could not buy baby clothes. Not only were stores not open, but there was a worldwide shortage of baby clothes. So I would have to find people on Facebook selling used baby clothes and buy them. So I found this twin mum that had good taste, and I bought a whole bag of matching twin girl baby clothes, right? And I would take pictures of them and I'd have them hanging up. And I had a vision board on my phone of like twin girls. And the woman phoned me and she said, great news. You've got no syndromes. You've got no health difficulties or whatever. You're having boys. And I was just like, I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. And I just felt like, and I know that people that don't care about gender will not understand this, but I could just see my life raising these 2 terror boys, and just, it was, yeah. So anyway, and I went into a deep depression. My dad actually broke lockdown laws to come for a walk with me, because I couldn't stop crying for a day. I was so upset. And so 24 hours passes and I'm sitting with Bohemia, giving her a dinner, and I'm sitting crying. And I'm a very positive mother. We don't argue in front of her. Like, I don't show anything negative really. And I just sat there thinking, this poor kid, she's had school taken away from her, her friends taken away from her, and now her mum's sitting here crying. Like, I've got to fucking step out of this. I need to remember my power. And the energy was not, I need to get over this and accept it. The energy was, I need to fucking change this. And so I sat there while she took her up for a bath. And while she's in the bath, I sat and wrote a gratitude list of all the things I was thankful for. I'm so thankful that I can get pregnant. I'm so thankful that I already have a daughter. Like, I have a daughter. I fucking love her. She's amazing. That's like, thank God. I'm thankful for, I've got a house. I'm thankful. All these things, right? Put her to bed, came downstairs, and I had 14 missed calls on my phone. And it was from the clinic. This is one of those moments I was telling you about where you're like, how can anyone dispute this? How? I'll remember this moment for the rest of my life. And I called them back so quickly. And she said, I'm so sorry. I've given you the wrong results. You're actually having twin girls. It does say it. They sent me an email with all the results on, but I didn't bother reading it because they said they're healthy and they're boys. So why would I read it? She said, I'm so sorry. My mum's dying of cancer. I'm really not with it. And I gave you the wrong results. And I just was like, I've prayed for this. I have literally, and it was one of the greatest moments of my life, because if you'd given me the choice in that moment of winning the lottery or having that result, I would have had that result 100 times over. And I just remember calling everybody I know. And I hadn't even told the dad that they were boys because I was so upset and I was so determined that it wasn't true. I didn't even tell him. And I was like, guess what? We're having 2 girls. They did say 2 boys, but I didn't. And he was so angry. But I was like, look, you didn't pay for the test. My test, my results, my business. So yeah, that will remain till the day I die, one of the best manifestations of my life ever.
I love that story so much, seriously. Can we talk vision boards as well? Because your vision board story is so unique. You spoke earlier about how you manifested your husband through your vision board, and it was actually him, wasn't it? The photograph that you put on of him. And I'm going to be quite nosy here, but I ask all my guests this. So what's on your vision board for the next 5 years? Like, what goals have you set for yourself for the future?
So moving into my dream home, which I'm kind of halfway there. Moving into my dream home, having an outdoor pool, because I really want an outdoor pool, becoming like, I want to say in the top 10 podcasts in the UK. I'm not going to say number 1 because that doesn't really feel believable to me, but in the top 10 of just overall podcasts, not in my niche, overall. I as well would love to do like some sort of residency spot, either on like This Morning or somewhere like that, talking about manifesting, like doing a phone in and people talking about how can they manifest things, because they did have a law of attraction woman on This Morning for a phone in, and she was a bit shit, if I'm honest. Like, she was a bit shit, and loads of people messaged me saying, Fran, you should be doing this. Like, this woman, I mean, I'd have to learn not to swear, wouldn't I? Because live TV and all that, but something like that, like basically just growing the brand, writing a book. I want to publish my second book. It'll be my second book, but the first book I'm actually proud of. And yeah, that's it really. Like, my daughters, do you know what? Some of the things on my manifestation board are things that look really boring, but actually have a massive impact on your life. So things like increasing my health. One of my goals is every day is a new opportunity to increase my health. That is a goal for me. Another one is for me and my daughters to all be really close and live in harmony. Now, like, everyone keeps telling me, God, 3 daughters, imagine when they get to teenage years. If we get to the teenage years and they're all fighting and crazy and have a fractured family, and one of them says, I don't want to live here anymore, that would be fucking devastating. That would impact my day-to-day life, which would impact my month-to-month life, which would impact each year I have, right? So things like that is a major goal for me and my daughters to be super close and live in harmony. So they're not all really exciting things, but yeah, just to basically live my best. I just want to live my best life. I want regular dick. I want to go and visit my friends in America twice a year. I want to travel with my daughters and give them amazing experiences. I want a bigger house because this is a bit small for us. I want to be like I want to be a big podcaster. Like, I remember when I was speaking to Paul Brunson, he's like, what do you want to do? Like, do you want to go into TV? Do you want to do something? I'm like, no, I want to be a podcaster. I love the format. I listen to podcasts avidly. Like, I love being a podcaster. I just want to grow that as much as I can. And I think that when that comes from a place of love and wanting other people to better their lives, you can't stop me, because it's not coming from a place of, oh, I want to do this to, like, I don't know, be the most powerful person in the world. I just want to help as many people as possible, especially like women, like I say, single mothers, I really want to help. So that's it, really. What about you? What's on your vision board?
Oh, God, you put me on the spot now. It's always me asking the questions. I want to grow it so that I don't have to physically put all the effort in myself, because at the minute I've ran Candy Crystals for the last year and it is all me. Do you know what I mean? So I want to be able to kind of hand down and give some delegation to at least one other person, just so I can free up a bit more time to myself. But I want to go nationwide. Like, I'm already dealing with this internet company who are going to get me up to like the first page on the SEO ranking of Google and stuff like that. I want my name out there. I want not my name, my brand out there, basically. Do you know what I mean? I want Candy Crystals to to grow. And I don't just want it to be all about crystals. I want it to be about health and well-being, and like what you said about helping other people. And I mean, on my website, I've got things like 100 days of gratitude, or do you know what I mean? There's like different downloadable documents, and I have a well-being journal that I produced last year. I've got online courses in the future about manifesting and things like that. And I just think anything that's going to help someone's well-being, that's all I want to do. I just want to help others. And anyone that'll describe me will say I'm overly helpful. And I just think that comes across in my brand. And I think that's just where I want to take my brand. I don't just want it to be all about crystals. I want it to grow.
Yeah. Do you know what? You could be the Newcastle version of Goop. You could be our Gwyneth. But
I'm not getting a candle like that smells of my cock.
Yeah, please don't.
No. Anyway, just going back to your website. So I'm going to touch on your online courses here, Fran, because back in January, I think it was, I joined your money manifesting workshop, and it was over 3 weeks on Facebook. It was live. It had bits of homework. It made me look at my energetic income and energetic spending and things different than I did before. And now you've expanded. You've got so many online courses, haven't you? You've got setting up a side hustle, goal setting up a spray tan business. You really are that fountain of knowledge and information. Do you think that your previous years of working in the corporate world in London gave you that boost in confidence enough to run your own empire?
No, working in corporate London literally diminished my confidence and made me feel like I couldn't do anything. It was the worst. But do you know what? I know that the spray tan one is a little bit random, but I was closing down my salon and I felt like I had so much knowledge, and I was doing the side hustle thing. And so many people were asking me about spray tan, saying, is spray tanning a good side hustle? And I'm like, every fucker I meet, I'm like, do spray tanning. I used to earn £130 an hour spray tanning. Wow. If you have no degree or qualifications, or even if you do, like, that's more than a teacher earns. That's more than some lawyers earn. Like, spray tanning is not to be fucked with. It's a great business, you know? So I was like, why would I let all of this information die? And kind of like what we were saying earlier about you either use it or lose it. And if you stop doing something, you forget about it. I was like, I really want to put everything that I've learned, not just about, actually, I didn't actually teach people how to spray tan. You can't do that. You need like insurance. It was more about creating a spray tan business and how to get celebrity clients and how to market it and all this kind of stuff. And I just felt like I wanted to put it all in one place, and it's helped so many women. And what I love is so many of my listeners now have set up spray tan businesses, and I follow them all on Instagram, and they're like, this week we had how many guys? And I'm like, fucking yes, because you know what? It's things like that that could be the difference between someone staying in a job they hate for the rest of their life and having 4 weeks holiday and having to send their kids to summer club in the summer holidays because they can't be with them, and somebody actually having financial freedom and working when they want. And this is what I was saying earlier about, like, we sometimes think that there's these massive answers, and sometimes it's not. It's as simple as learn to spray tan, earn £130 an hour, live your best life.
That's amazing. I noticed the other day on your stories as well on Instagram that you've recently started wearing your Canny Crystals Rose Quartz Self-Love Pendant, and you also did your first full moon ritual this week as well with your crystals charging. How did you find all that?
I am turning into one witchy bitch, and I'm loving it. I'm here for it. So I definitely wanted a rose quartz that I could keep close to my heart, because I had a rose quartz that was just a stone and I don't wear a bra. So I was like, where the fuck do I put it? I had nowhere to put it. So it's a real problem. That's another thing. Women don't have pockets in their clothes. It's a real issue. So I had nowhere to put it. So I got a pendant and I love it. I only took it off today because I wanted all my crystals in one place. And yes, I did a full moon ritual and it was magical. It's something that I want to do every single month. I think I'd love to do a new moon and a full moon ritual every month. And if anyone wants to come and join me, they can come and join me. I did it in my garden. I loved it. And I do feel like it was very powerful. Like, I feel like the things that I put on my list, I did let go of. Like, I absolutely loved it. And I also feel very, so you know, I'm a starseed, right? I got told that my sister had a psychic tell her that I was a starseed. And I found out when I was drunk in Tenerife on a hen party. And the second I heard it, it was like everything in my life made sense. And anything that I do that is like to do with the moon or being outside and looking at the sky, I feel really weirdly connected, which is why I think I loved this full moon ritual. But yeah, I can't remember what I was saying.
We're talking about the moon, but I remember seeing this psychic lady once over, and I told her that I felt really alone, and despite having like 70,000 followers online, my friendship circle was really small and that most of the time all of my friends seem to be doing something apart from me. And she said, that's because you're a starseed and that's why you feel like you're different and you're disconnected from everyone else and that you don't 100% belong because you actually don't. And I specifically listening, remember your podcast a few weeks ago where your sister had been told that as well. So yeah, that's really weird.
And she also said that my sister, my mum and my dad have been together for many lifetimes, whereas I'm brand new, like in this gaff. I've not met them before. So it's weird. Like, I don't know if it's because I was drunk, but when I found that out, the sun was setting. And I honestly, it was like a spiritual experience. It's like someone had told me that I was adopted. And I was like, oh...
Everything makes sense.
Yeah. And so there's apparently a book. Loads of my listeners have sent me a book called Letters to a Starseed. So I'm going to buy that. And I'm going to get that book.
It's so nice to see other open-minded people like dabbling into finding more about spirituality and seeing what works for them, because my full moon and new moon TikToks always get hundreds of thousands of views. Like there's 3 pinned to me page with over 2 million views. And for years, I just thought that I was a weirdo that was into like astrology and the universe. But I do think things like moon rituals and crystal healing and manifesting, it's all become very mainstream in the last few years. Do you think that there's a part of this in that people want something to believe in and they just want to have that hope and faith that things will get better, especially given the last 2 years that we've all had?
Yeah, it's become very mainstream. Like when I first started teaching law of attraction, nobody really knew what it was about. Whereas now I feel like you can pretty much say to the average person on the street under 40, and they will know what you're talking about. But I think it's fantastic because the more people that know about it, if we can raise our collective consciousness, the better. I think people like Russell Brand really help. I think people that are Ariana Grande, people that aren't traditionally from that spiritual space, like people like Rhonda Byrne and Emma Mumford, you're never going to be exposed to those people unless you're explicitly looking for that, right? Whereas people like Russell, people like the other one I just said, Ariana Grande, they will talk about it through normal stuff. And so people might be like, oh, wow, okay, so it works for them. And that's so interesting when you start to look at celebrities who do believe in it. Particularly, I find a lot of rappers. I think a lot of rappers who have come from nothing and have made it really big, they are huge believers in law of attraction. Yeah, I love it. I'm here for it. And I think that, people do want to feel like there's something bigger. Like people like me, for example, I don't believe in Jesus and God. And it fucking pisses me off when Bo comes home and at Christmas she's like, there was an ark and Noah put 2 of each animal in. I'm like, just think about it, Bo. Like, do you really do you really think that happened? And like at Christmas, there was a lot of God bothering going on and Jesus time. And I just like, I really struggle with it. But I am very spiritual. I don't believe that we're just here and then we die. But for people like us, there's not really a name for it as such. And I mean, I do think the law of attraction is basically a religion, really. I don't know what name you give it, but
I think I'll just call it like spirituality, just being like open to it, you know what I mean? Because it hasn't really got a name, but like you say, it is almost like a religion. And some people, when I talk to them about it, they're like, oh, it's a bit of a cult. And I'm like, it's not at all. It's just a way of thinking. It's just being positive and being grateful and knowing that there's something out there that's bigger than us. That's all it is.
And also being wise enough to be like, I'm not going to put a name like Dave on it. Like, isn't it weird that we're like Muhammad or Jesus or, the third disciple was called John? Like, how the fuck do you know? Like, why are we putting these names on it? Like, or like Terry and Esther Hicks or whatever. No, Jerry and Esther Hicks. You know, when they were like, Abraham. Why are you giving it a name like Abraham? Can't we just be cool and be like, it's some God that we don't know? We don't need to call it Dave. All right.
Yeah. I know you get a lot of inspiration daily from other entrepreneurs as well, like Denise DeField Thomas, Amanda Francis, Gary Vee. But who, if anyone, do you idolize? Who is up there for you?
Do you know what? This is such a weird question, like a weird answer, because I have had sex with him, but Russell Brand. And it's a real love-hate relationship because I used to love him as a comedian. He was my favourite comedian. Then when he asked me to go to his house and have a threesome with him, I was like, why wouldn't I? He's my favourite comedian. And then after a time, we had a bit of a negative experience and we never spoke again. And it was all a bit horrible. And so I really hated him. But I think aside from that, what he's done with his platform and the knowledge that he has and the way that he shares it, I think it's incredible. I went to see him on his new tour. My sister and I have been to see him twice now. And you just leave thinking like, I know nothing. I know absolutely nothing. Like he could be the president of the world. I truly
Didn't he do like
that.
a joint meditation right at the end as well?
Or
did you not stay around for that?
I can't really remember now. Do you know, my sister was like, why don't you go down and do the meet and greet? I'm like, fuck right off. I am not going up and be like, hi, Russell, remember me? Like, no. But he would actually be my dream guest on my podcast if I could get over the whole issue, like things that have happened. Like, because I just think he is such an enlightened person, but also alongside with that, which I hope is kind of what I bring to my podcast, is that there's a lot of knowledge and depth there, but it's put across in an entertaining way. Yeah. So people that normally wouldn't want to listen to that stuff, or people that would normally just be like, that's not my bag, they are interested and they are open to it because he puts it across in such an entertaining way. And so I just love him. Yeah. Russell Brand, that's my answer.
I know we briefly touched on this before, and I know you've already got a book available to be bought. Wag Don't Wanna Be. Check it out on Amazon.
No, don't tell people what it is. No, please. But I hate. Oh, do you know? I don't think you can even buy it anymore. I'm not ashamed of it.
You can. It's on Amazon. I saw it the other day. It's called Wag Don't Wanna Be: How to Date Footballers and Survive. But anyway, what I was going to ask is, what's your plans for this next book? Because I know you're going to start writing this new book, and I know you've touched on self-publishing in your own podcast. So what will this book be about? Is it going to be about the law of attraction, or more towards self-help, or motherhood, or kind of a mixture of all three?
No, 100% law of attraction. And I don't know whether it's because I feel comfortable with this, but I want to do it the same way that I kind of did with Wag Don't Wanna Be, which was kind of like a guide, a how-to, but then also partly autobiographical and like my own experiences. So an idea that I have that I think I'll do, only because it seems like it's a good introduction to self-publishing, because it is a bit scary, is I want to do like 6 life lessons that I've learned from the law of attraction, but with a catchy title. That wouldn't be it. And so it would be 6 things that I've used to manifest really, like all of those big things we're talking about, you know, finding my husband 2.5 years after I put him on a vision board, changing the gender of my twins when a DNA clinic had told me otherwise, things like that. Putting that into like 6 life lessons of how you can apply it to your life, but also those incredible manifestation stories as well. So that's kind of the idea. And then after that, I've already got plans for a second one. I want to do a book that is all about how to have the best year of your life. And basically that New Year's Day goal setting course I did, people's reaction to that was insane. And even now I get messages from people saying, this has been the best year of my life, because I actually took that time on the first day of the year to really not just set goals, but to put strategies around it. And I think turning that into an accessible book that people that are not interested in online courses that could do it as a book, I think would be incredible. So my goal is to have that actually out by Christmas.
Amazing. Oh, I want to sign copy, mine.
Yeah.
And I like to end all my podcast interviews with a simple question as well. So what advice would you give your teenage self before all of this blew up? What advice would you give teenage Fran?
I don't know. Just that it's all going to be all right, you little hoe. The thing is, I don't think I would say to change anything, because I think that everything you go through really shapes you into the person that you are today. So I wouldn't want to say, have a bit more self-worth. Don't be such a hoe. You know, don't date anyone. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't think I would say that. But what I would say is just everything's going to work out for the best. And also, read a book called The Secret, because it will change your life. Because I feel like, honestly, since discovering the law of attraction, that is truly what's changed my life. Do you know what song I love is, what's his name? Sam Fender, 17 Going Under, because I feel like so many people can relate to that when you're like 17, 18, it's supposed to be the best years of your life. But I think for a lot of us, teens and early 20s, you have the shittest time. Yeah. In between going out and the clubbing and everything, you have really shit times. You can have really toxic friendships. You're just starting out in relationships. You're doing all of these things that you're going to have to undo in therapy later. And I just think life does get better. Like, I think we are so conditioned to think your youth is great and your teens and your 20s are amazing and you're supposed to be living your best life, and then you settle down and have children and it all gets boring. I'm here to tell you that does not happen. Your life just gets better and better and better, so long as you work on yourself. So work on your mindset, work on your self-development, and it doesn't matter how old you are, you will continue to live a better and better life. I would not go back to my 20s if you fucking paid me.
Incredible advice. Fran, you've absolutely made my year by coming on the show, and it's been an absolute pleasure. So thank you so, so much. I appreciate it more than you'll ever know. And to anyone listening that wants to find out more about Fran and her journey, her podcasts, her online courses, all that jazz, I'm going to leave all the details and the links in the show notes for today's episode. So Fran, thank you so, so much for sharing your story and being so honest and open with us all.
Thank you for having me. This has been a real treat. I do laugh that we are literally, do you know what makes me laugh is you've travelled 2 hours to my house to record together and we're sitting in separate rooms.
Do you know what's funny? Like, I'm sat facing out into this park out here, and there's been so many people that have gone past, like, staring at me, like, sat here with headphones in the front window.
Oh, you'll be on the village Facebook group later. You'll be like, there's a man in Fran's house recording some sort of porno. That's what they'll be saying.
Well, thank you so much, Fran. I really do appreciate your time. And thank you all so much for joining once again. Do you know I'm off to sunny Spain for a week tomorrow, and I've never even got excited about it because all I've been thinking about is this podcast episode with Fran that I've totally forgot I'm going on holiday. So when this podcast goes out, I'll only have 2 days of my holiday left. But right now, I haven't even packed and I leave in about 12 hours. So I'm going to bomb back up to Newcastle now and get that suitcase dragged out. So please leave me a review wherever you're listening to this podcast from. It really does help this grow to new audiences. Have a super lush weekend, everyone. And I'll see you all next week for another episode of Canny Crystals, the podcast. Bye. Come and join me in the Manifest with Mart community. For just £10 a month, you'll get exclusive access to my app and you'll join all the other beautiful souls in the Canny community, where each day you'll be held accountable to making your dreams and desires come to fruition. You'll also be set daily and weekly challenges. There's a chat room built in so you can talk to people in real time, and you can also pop over any questions that you have in the Q&A forum and I'll answer them for you. It's changing people's lives, and we've already had so many people manifesting things in the first 2 weeks alone. Each new moon, I'll also be going live within the group on a face-to-face video to help you get the most out of the lunar cycles, as well as answer any burning questions that you have. And these live meetups are so powerful, and everyone in the group has had nothing but praise for the safe space that we share. There are very limited spaces for this community, however, just to ensure that I can place my focus on you and nurture you into the ultimate manifester. So if you'd like a spot, please be quick and reserve your seat now. Head to cannycrystalsacademy.co.uk and choose the Manifest with Mart option, where you can get instant access, and what's more, you'll also get access to all of the past recordings and chats too. Join now and start living the life of your dreams.